Hi, everybody. Welcome on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. We are all over the place. And it's Monday, and so we sometimes do Q&A and Week That Happened review on Mondays. And then other days we do what we do today called Blind Reacts to Right-Wing Crazy Videos. And Jill is with me, Westworld South on social media. Why Westworld South, Jill?
Honestly, I really liked the show Westworld, and I felt like I was in it when I moved down south because I felt like it was just I felt very foreign and so it kind of just made sense to me.
Didn't you think the last season kind of sucked though?
I could, yeah, it wasn't my favorite, but there was a lot of I really get into the symbolism and the psychology and philosophy behind it all. So
That,
I got a kick out of that.
yeah, that first season was amazing. I definitely recommend the first season. Then you kind of have to have the second season. Now it's just, to me, it's like, oh, this person is that person. They've got this person's brain in that person. And now it's just like, how do I even follow the show at this point, you know?
Yeah, I think it is an interesting delve into the development of human consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, it starts off with the maze in the first season, and then it gets a little more in depth as it goes on.
Yeah. I thought the whole idea of, and obviously it's a commentary on God and religion and a God that is sadistic and cruel and just playing games. And suddenly the creatures under God are like, screw this. We're not putting up with this anymore. So yeah, it's a good one.
And they become the gods.
Yeah. Another good commentary on religion, and season 2 is coming out soon, is Severance. You got to see Severance, everybody.
Okay.
I can't remember which platform it's on, but find Severance. All right, but that's not why we're here. We are reacting to crazy right-wing videos today. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I don't know if I'll have all of yours in order. So let me see if I can just grab one of them and you can see where we start. And
I may have to introduce it a bit.
Yeah, and set it up. So
I know the first one is a TikTok, and that one is
the first one's a TikTok. Okay,
That's
is
pretty horrifying.
Andrew Callahan talking about his new film. Is that the right one?
No, I don't. Is it about a film? It may be. You'll see. It got me in a. But you'll
Okay,
see.
so just play.
Yes, just play.
Okay, here we go.
The people who are pulling the strings is the Italian Vatican. They actually are reptilian bloodlines from another planet.
If you watch This Place for Girls, you notice that I interviewed a lot of children. There was the QAnon family where I talked to those 3 kids in Georgia. And this kid, I think he was 9 years old. He just yelled into the camera. He's like, Biden.
A child molester.
Just like Hillary Clinton and Obama.
Who made the virus?
And I was like, holy shit, this kid is 9 years old. Who's telling him these things? And I see a hand on his shoulder and it's his dad. And his dad whispers in his ear and he goes, hey, tell him Q sent me. And then the kid's like, Q sent me. So I visited their house, which is just covered in Trump flags. And, where we go all hats and don't tread on me stickers. And I just hung out with this family for a couple days. Their parents homeschool them and only preload them with info about QAnon.
I don't want my kids wearing masks.
Do you guys miss going to school?
Very much. It's not, the virus is man-made.
So the window of de-radicalization or breaking through or going clear in that way might not happen for a lot of these people. And so it's funny to think that kid that I talked to, who I watched be programmed by his parents and the media they were showing him, could very well be the next Capitol rioter.
Wow.
I was horrified when I saw that.
I saw a TikTok yesterday about indoctrination in evangelicalism and saw these kids at church camp, and it just broke my heart. They're being told, you're going to hear all kinds of things from the rest of the world. Don't believe them. They're wrong. We have all truth. And my heart just breaks for that child that we see in that video there.
and he's completely isolated. His parents don't let him out. He doesn't go to school. He never goes anywhere without them. He is a hostage.
Wow.
And how many other kids are like that right now?
It's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. So I need something funny real quick to get me off of that. You see Greg Locke has a new movie. And
I have
apparently
not seen that.
Apparently Greg Locke is coming out. The movie is called Come Out in Jesus' Name. So Greg Locke doing a movie about coming out. I'm so happy that Greg has found his true self and authentic self and is ready to come out.
What can go wrong?
Look at this one. Come out in Jesus' name. This guy is,
Oh my God.
He is something.
Is there a trailer? Please tell me there's a trailer.
Oh, I don't have the trailer. We're going to have to find it for sure. And there's another Left Behind coming out too, because that's what we needed, was another Left Behind movie.
Well, I mean, we have a Left Behind for every date of the apocalypse. So,
Yeesh. Okay, let's see. You want to do the one from Hillsdale College next?
That's fun. So I will preface this by saying my advertisements these days, because I click through so many things, and I read a lot of right-wing propaganda. So I get the ads for them, and they're always entertaining. This one was, so like, it might be a little haha funny, but I think most of my videos today are quite terrifying.
Okay, let's watch.
Rights. That is one term that everyone loves in America. The right, the left, the wokies, the libertarians. There's a broad consensus that in America we have rights.
One of the founders mockingly put it, what are we going to put in our Bill of Rights? The right to get up when you want, go to sleep when you want. You can't list all the rights. That's all the possible things that human beings could do. What you don't have, though, you don't have a right to welfare. You don't have a right to health care. You don't have a right to self-esteem by making other people praise you for whatever you're doing.
This is not the sanitized version of the founders with powdered wigs talking about abstract principles. This is Tom West exposing the whole of the founding, including the parts of it that make us uncomfortable.
We've lost the frame for thinking clearly about politics in the modern world. I can do anything. I can become a cat. I mean, this is one of my favorites. These people today. Like, if you had told George Washington that's what you're building and that's what you're standing for, he would have just looked at you like, I don't know what.
Nobody is wanting to become a cat. God, how did they make these people believe this nonsense?
Worthy is noble. They thought what they were doing was something grand, to establish and create a society that protects the common good.
We are going to discuss what the founders thought about natural rights, immigration, foreign policy, sex, marriage, going beyond the mere presentation of the abstract principle. So contrast it with
I think the last line is like
America, to accentuate the differences so as to bring it all to life.
The Republican government. That's the best way to organize politics if you can do it. That's only possible if you have a healthy American people. And what do you do when you don't have a healthy American people? What do you do when you have an American people that can't figure out minimal duties of citizenship?
tense classical music. Yes. So the only way to save America is a completely Republican government. That's what he says. And the duties of citizenship, like they are trying to really segue us into some North Korea stuff. We have duties to the government. We owe them something.
Yeah. And the founding fathers believed that they had a citizenship that knew what was right to do. That's why they created a system where they could set aside any election that they wanted to set aside. That's why they made an upper house to represent the wealthy that was appointed. The Senate was originally appointed by the rich governors of the states. And then the lower house, the House of Representatives, which represented those people. Come on. I mean, the thing about Christian nationalism and this right-wing Christianity is they're trying to completely rewrite the history of the founding of the country. And as if they were, these guys were walking around with halos and, they were like white Jesus and, oh, the people are, no, these were men who did something amazing, but what they did it wasn't handed down on stone tablets from Sinai, and they weren't angels sent that did something beyond human ability. It's that is a scary video exactly because of what you said.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important
maybe
to
the
know
citizenry doesn't deserve to vote anymore because they don't know their responsibility to government.
Right. They're not healthy. We're not a healthy American public. So we need to be taken care of by an authoritarian government. And I think that it's
need to jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to note that, I don't 100% disagree with what they're saying about the founding fathers, though. But you have to remember that the founding fathers wrote all of this and put all of these rights together for who they considered to be humans at that time, for who they considered to be people. And that did not include anybody other than wealthy white men.
Right.
So we've broadened what we think of as human beings now. And unfortunately for them, they thought they were always going to be the only people considered people.
Yeah.
But the way they wrote it, anybody who's considered people, they might not like it. But
yeah. Well, and we've got to look at like this originalist thing. I've got many right-wing Christians upset because I said, yes, I agree with the Second Amendment of the Constitution and what the original intent of the founding fathers. And that was that all of you could have as many muskets as you want, as long as you're in a well-regulated militia. I totally agree with the Second Amendment. And boy, that makes...
Well, that one video.
Somebody was trying to tell me like the founding fathers knew there would be bigger weapons. How the hell would they know that?
Because they're gods. Obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gods. You know what? And speaking of Westworld, it was like they were gods lording over these minions, and they never expected us all, the regular people, to get smart enough to own our rights. That's, I had read somewhere years ago that the reason that legalese is written the way that it is to ensure that, the average person can't understand it.
Right. You have to have a lawyer that can read lawyerese. Yes. And, many people talk about the Electoral College being there to protect Iowa from California in voting. Well, neither Iowa or California existed when the Electoral College was invented, but both, if you read the Federalist Papers, both James Madison and Alexander Hamilton wrote that the Electoral College was really about rich white men, landowners, the smart people being able to set aside a presidential election if the people, which they said the people will one day vote somebody unqualified for office, and we need to have a mechanism to set it aside. And that was the purpose of the Electoral College. The Electoral College is to keep the popular vote from deciding the president, because the founding fathers did not trust people to vote well.
Well, we did elect somebody that was unqualified, and they did nothing about it. And he sat there for 4 years, and then, the one video, the one that I have you starting at, I think 452.
Yeah.
You were talking about the Second Amendment. There's some interesting stuff on that one.
Okay.
Like it's just a portion of a larger video, but I like to see what we look like to other countries. And I hope you can get the banner in where it says that it's funded by the Chinese government.
Is this the right one?
No, that is not the right one.
Okay, let me try another one.
That one's fun too, though.
All right, we'll get to that. Then it's this one.
Mm-hmm.
And the banner says, CGTN is funded in whole or in part by the Chinese government.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this is what this is what they see when they look at us.
Troublemaker military industrial complex. All right, let's hear it.
Who is quietly pushing the war and eventually cultivated the far-right forces? These numbers may give the answer. In 2019, the total sales of the global top 5 aerospace and defense companies, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, and General Dynamics, reached a whopping $166 billion. 12 American firms were on the list of the top 25 global defense companies, representing 61% of global arms sales. Among the $2.3 trillion spent in the war in Afghanistan, around 87% went into the pockets of the top 5 defense contractors. Even in wars in which the US is not directly involved, the biggest gainers are likely to be the US military-industrial complex. The steady flow of US military aid to Ukraine is a case in point. The Biden administration has provided more than $17.5 billion as military assistance for Ukraine. It definitely provides the military-industrial complex further access to medium and long-term revenue streams.
I make no apology for that. And the fact is, eventually we will see some benefit in the business over time. Everything that's being shipped into Ukraine today, of course, is coming out of stockpiles, either at DOD or from our NATO allies.
By founding and lobbying members of
Wow.
Congress, American defense
We just have
contractors
weaponry lying
gain
around to
tremendous
give away.
influence in national policymaking. With the help of senators and representatives they have founded, they obtain more resources to manufacture weapons.
Well, what we see in America is the militarization of the police force. Now, the defense industries are highly involved in this, supplying arms, supplying equipment. So the American military-industrial complex does benefit from increased fears of terrorism domestically within the United States, because this presents another market for them to be able to sell into.
The US is
Yeah,
trying
you
to
can-
sell
I have-
into an
This is so
imperialist
awkward and
military
painful
machine.
to watch.
It is.
Creates a
It's
hotbed for domestic far-right terrorism, while sowing the seeds for social division and turmoil. People may
It's
face
sad.
a simmering, chronic domestic terror problem, but American citizens don't want trauma to become a way of life.
Wow.
yeah. So
Okay, that was uncomfortable.
it was very uncomfortable, and you want it to be propaganda. You want it to be untrue, but unfortunately, it's not. Yes, it is funded in part by the Chinese government, but this is how we look to the rest of the world. We look like basically gangs, warmonger gangs have taken over our country. They're taking all of the tax revenue from it. They're lobbying the government and paying them to give that, like supplying us with as many guns as we want and creating domestic terrorism. And like, they're not wrong. They're
Well,
not
it
wrong
was-
about it.
It was Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican president, a 5-star general, the hero of, one of the big heroes of World War II, who said on his way out of office, the danger in America is the military industrial complex. That was Dwight Eisenhower's words. And even, in the Kennedy administration, the military was pushing him for war with the Soviet Union. That would have been devastating to the world. I can't really disagree. That's why it's so uncomfortable. I recognize that is Chinese propaganda, and I can't disagree with it.
And when you watch that, if you watch the entire video, they have like that one man. He's Australian. They've got several other. It's not just China telling that story. It is being told from the perspective of several different views outside of our borders. And it's interesting. You said, they're pushing for war with the Soviet Union. Like they've been. They were pushing for they're pushing this Russia thing, and that just didn't seem to take. And then all of a sudden we've got a Chinese spy balloon floating over us, which was shot down right off of our coast here.
Yes.
It floated over. I didn't even know. My mom texted me and was like, "Did you see the balloon?" I'm like, "No." She says it's over North Carolina.
You missed it? Oh my
I
goodness.
missed it, but I did see the video of it being shot down. And so they're itching. They're itching for war. You know,
Yeah.
my kids will ask me after looking at history and stuff, you know, do I think there'll be a World War III? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. They're never going to let that go.
What that video is ultimately saying, right, is war is good for business, you know, and this was, you know, Halliburton and Dick Cheney, the vice president, that he made a boatload of money off us going to war with Iraq, a country that had nothing to do with 9/11 whatsoever. We knew that it was Saudi Arabia that was involved in 9/11, but we couldn't go to war with Saudi Arabia. You know, one thing about Trump and his just nuttiness is at least he was honest, like, we can't do anything to Saudi Arabia. They're buying our weapons. They're buying our jets. We can't do anything to Saudi Arabia just because they killed a Washington Post reporter and chopped him into pieces. There's nothing we can do about that. That was real honesty from a president. And, you know, our history is, you know, didn't Franklin Delano Roosevelt do a great job of getting us out of the Depression with all his social programs? But it's pretty hard to argue that it was actually World War II that got us out of Depression, not necessarily the social programs of Roosevelt.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, when you look at it from a sociological and psychological standpoint, there really is not any way out of the current predicament that we're in other than war. We need a good war to make sure that, you know, to help us with our patriotism and to bring the people back together. Kind of like, you know, after 9/11, everybody banded together to just hate Muslims together. And now, you know, we need an enemy because without a common enemy, we're not going to bond and we're split and it's dangerous.
And it's not Christian at all. And that's the danger of patriotism right there, you know, unfettered patriotism. And the interesting thing is the Republicans want to hold the debt ceiling crisis right now. And they're saying we have to cut. But the first 3 years of the Trump administration were the largest deficits, 3 of the largest deficits in the history of the United States. He ran up government debt compared to gross domestic production. That was 3 of the largest in the history of the country. And almost all of that increase in the debt was increase in military budget. And I believe that, you know, in some ways the economy was already roaring and moving up when Trump came in, but he greased the economy with writing a whole bunch of blank checks that our grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to have to pay for. And most of that money went to the military industry. And it's crazy. Yeah, Doug is saying in the comments, 25% of total current debt is directly from Trump. So the Republicans are the biggest fucking hypocrites in the world to say we need to cut spending when they rubber stamped Donald Trump's every dime of debt, which was massive.
Yeah, and their supporters at this point, like I understand that they've gotten them kind of corralled in a bubble where they don't listen to anything outside of you know, the propaganda and the, you know, it's full of confirmation bias. Anything that you think is true because they tell you it's true. And I think that it's I don't see how they can. I mean, I know because I've seen like the videos, the first one, but I don't know how they can believe this, how you can catch people with, you know, the facts all the time. And they just, no, it's like that song, the Shaggy song, It Wasn't Me, you know, where the girl keeps catching him cheating and he's like, it wasn't me. That's literally, that should be the Republican slogan. It wasn't me.
American Ninja on TikTok says Trump did not cause 25% of the $32 trillion debt. That's disinformation. So I want to make sure that I haven't researched that number, so I don't know. But I do know that the major drivers of our debt that we have today were Ronald Reagan was first. He was the one that really opened the floodgates of debt. George Bush in the in the bank bailouts, put us into huge amounts of debt. Then Obama had big debt early on because he inherited the Bush crisis. But then Obama started cutting back on the deficit. It started going down, and then Trump. So 3 Republican presidents have been major, major drivers of debt. And so any Republican that tells you they're concerned about national debt, just know that it's a complete fucking lie. And they don't do anything about it when there's a Republican president, because they know debt is good for the economy. And they know that boomers will love them, because boomers don't give a shit that they're running up huge debts that are going to have to be paid for by our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and great-great-great-grandchildren. And that the Bible says don't do that. And they don't care.
They're not fiscal conservatives. It's bullshit. No. They just don't want any of the money to go to benefit the American people. That's what it's about. They want the tax dollars to go towards their friends, their buddies. I mean, it is the epitome of crony capitalism. Our entire government is infested with it.
Yeah, and now somebody here is saying that I glossed over Bill Clinton's deficit. No, Bill Clinton is one of the few presidents we've ever had in history that had a balanced budget. That you need to go learn your history, brother, because you are incorrect. Bill Clinton actually balanced budget. Now, Donald Trump, in 4 years as president, never produced a budget, never once. Congress didn't pass a budget when Trump was president, never. Bill Clinton actually balanced the budget, which was incredible. And of course, he had the Silicon Valley tech boom to help him out with that. But I love the revision of history by Tucker Carlson that's swallowed whole by our right-wing friends on a regular basis.
Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. And speaking of the bubble and how people end up in the bubble, that will take you right into the next video, which is another advertisement for me, because,
okay,
they think I love the conservatives.
Let me say one other thing on this. That is correct. But as somebody said on TikTok, yes, the Democrats, they buy into the military industrial complex. Not as much as the Republicans do, because their supporters aren't quite the warmongers that Republicans are, but they're not stopping that process either. So.
Listen, all government officials lie. They do.
Come on.
My objection is the way that they lie.
Particularly
lie
when
to
they
me and tell me lie to me and tell me that it's sunny when it's raining. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like the other side, the lies are creating domestic terrorists. They are creating division in this country. They're fanning the flames of racism. No, I don't believe that any of the Democrats that say that they, really love us and our rights and they really want to give them to us. No, but at least they're telling us, the typical political bullshit that people have been telling, that politicians have been telling people for centuries.
And by the way, the guy that was talking about Bill Clinton's deficits also had to throw in a homophobic, misogynistic slur in with his comment. So there's that Christian man, small dick energy for which you all are so famous. Thank you for that today. We understand you feel inadequacies, and you have to fulfill those inadequacies by putting down other people with homophobic or misogynistic slurs. So I hope that helped you feel a little bit more manly today, because we know emotional well-being is not important in Christianity. All right. This is your other advertisement you have for us here.
Yes.
So here we go.
I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine for conservatives. Let me just tell you what it does. First of all, big tech right now is run by a bunch of elitist people who all happen to vote the same way and who all happen to live in huge cities on the West Coast. And so Result Hunter takes those elitist values and elitist sources and kind of pushes them down a little bit in the search engine. Meanwhile, it takes those sources of truth that we believe have been deranked a little bit by Google, and it pushes those up a bit. And the main thing that you'll gain from using the search engine is that your ad revenue that you generate by going all over the web will be much more likely to support conservatives and things that support conservative values rather than things that support elitist and liberal cultural values. So thank you. Please use resulthunter.com if you're a conservative. Hit try now to go over there and it'll become your default when you hit add to browser and follow the instructions. See you at resulthunter.com.
It is fantastic. I love the gaslighting in it, where it's like, they're accusing the people on the left of being the elitist. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Donald Trump once said, "I love the uneducated," and he wasn't kidding. He wasn't kidding. But the funny thing about this, like, and it's part of the problem, I think, with right-wing Christianity today is, we have our own bookstores, our own radio stations, our own TV stations, our own search engines, our own schools. Some, like the kid we had in the earlier video, they're homeschooled, so they never hear another thought or opinion outside of their echo chamber. And it really does create scary people who sadly, I don't totally blame them, except they are making some choices, but then are just so easily manipulated. If I'm told there's a one world government coming and Jesus is going to come back and wipe everybody out who's a part of that one world government, well, then it becomes very easy to believe everything Fox News tells me about Joe Biden, because there's a big, scary world conspiracy out there.
It's weird to think that Jesus would come back and be all about the billionaires, though. I don't know when he made that change. Maybe about the same time that JFK Jr. did, in death. Because
you don't think Hobby Lobby is Jesus' favorite store?
Yeah. Everybody turns conservative when they die, apparently. And as much as they talk about the voter fraud and stuff, I feel like you would find that that's also true.
Yeah.
In voting.
And that, the funny thing, I was talking with some right winger the other day. I'm like, now, that Tucker Carlson went into court in a libel suit and said no reasonable person would ever believe what he's sharing is truth and facts. And
that was the lawyer that said that.
The lawyer of Trump
Sydney,
said that.
Right.
So Tucker's was that he's entertainment. He's not news. You can't. Nobody would take what Tucker Carlson says as news.
And it's just the way that he presents it. Like, he knows these people. I was going to put up a status the other day where I was like, I was going to say, none of you may understand neurobiology, but I guarantee to you that the people putting this crap in front of you understand it. They do. They know exactly how to work it. And it's funny because we like to think that we're so complicated, but it really does not take much to indoctrinate a human being. It doesn't. Like, if you put one person, and they've done studies about it, you can put one person with these beliefs into a room full of other people with different beliefs, and just the pressure of being around those people will change them. Like, we like to conform. So if you keep people only around other people that you want them to conform to, they will conform. Right. And yes, you're going to have the people who step away, and you've seen that. And the more ridiculous it gets, the more people step away. That's why there's such an avalanche of deconstructionists coming out, because there's only so much you can look at before you're like, hold on.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Well, here's another video that will make you want to deconstruct. This is a prayer at a recent Republican event. Let's watch. Oh, wait, how do I play this? Sorry. Here we go.
I believe that we are in danger of judgment as a nation, especially because we have become the primary corrupter of the world, and particularly of youth and children. Our government and corporations increasingly march under the rainbow flag. We bully weaker and poorer countries to come under that flag. Our universities train millions of foreign students who return to their countries with this ideology. Our social media and entertainment companies make it attractive. They promote, they normalize, celebrate immorality. And there's no escaping them as they blanket the world. There are godly mothers and fathers around the world who fear our influence. And sometimes when I'm in a foreign country, I want to fall on my knees and repent for what we are doing to these countries, to these people. Jesus said, woe to the one who causes others to sin.
He's going to do
And he
the
underlines this
millstone.
especially in relation to the
Here
young.
comes the
Whoever
millstone.
causes one of these little
Yeah.
ones to sin, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depth of the
Total
sea.
misuse of that verse.
I hate to break it to you, Andrew Brunson.
Oh,
Like,
now I don't disagree that there are times when I am embarrassed for what America has done to the world. I don't disagree with that, but I don't think the rainbow flag is our biggest issue.
it's just they turn things around. It's you know, it's the way that they take the little bits of truth, and that's kind of how you appeal to people. You know, everybody can agree on very basic things. Like everybody can agree that like we're in a really crappy position right now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody can agree with that. So if you take that agreement and then you say, and here's the reason why, and this is, you know, and then of course naturally they're using like the Bible verses. I had another video that I couldn't, it's a really long sermon and there's so many good parts I really couldn't pick one, but I'll probably have it ready for you next week. It only just streamed yesterday, so
Okay.
I
All
love
right.
the fresh ones. You take things that are real and you attribute them to whomever you want.
Right.
And, you know, it makes sense. People love to have someone to blame. They love it. The last thing in the world that they want is just, you know, well, you know, things just happen. No, things happen because this person did this and that person did that. And this group wanted rights, God forbid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole thing of you know, everybody's coming to oppress Christians. You know, it's just such a silly thing. And you know, people talk, when you talk about guns, what do they talk about? I'm going to stop an intruder coming into my house. You know, with it's this enemy, or I'm going to stop the government from coming into my house. The NRA is constantly pounding this drum, but statistics show without question, a gun in a house means it's way more likely that the man in that house kills his spouse or his children or somebody he knows or himself with that gun than an intruder. Like, it's not even statistically close.
Not even. And also the statistics stating, you know, victims of crime, when the perpetrator of that crime is known to you as opposed to a stranger, it is by far, I don't know the exact, I can't pull the exact numbers, but if you look at it, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous that, you know, we grew up learning things about stranger danger, but, you know, they never taught us about the, you know, the little league coach or the youth pastor, you know.
Yeah.
They were teaching us about the creepy stranger when statistically the creepy stranger was much less likely to come near us than the other people, the other adults we let into our kids' lives. You know, I said when I was a kid and I was raised Catholic, you know, you were allowed to have slumber parties over at the rectory with the priests. The altar boys would have slumber parties at the rectory with the priests.
Oh my goodness.
Who in the fuck thought that was a good idea?
That is scary.
Mm-hmm.
That is scary.
We just gave them unlimited, you know, and that's what this is all about. We indoctrinate them, we get them to trust us, and then, you know, we can just run away with their children.
Yeah. Wow. All right. I am going to finish with a sermon illustration, and I think it's going to make you cringe.
Oh God.
I think it's going to make you cringe. Let's see what you think.
Got it. Well, the goldfish is dying, flopping, floundering around. It's just what, I mean, I don't want to be bad, but the thing's dying.
You're being bad, just so you know.
I'll rescue him. Some of you were more worried about that goldfish out of water and dying than you are people in your lives dying without Jesus.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Holy shit. Maybe that's where that phrase came from. Because apparently the holier ones are really spreading a lot of shit.
I want to punch
You're going to torture a fish.
I want to punch
that's
that.
the thing. They teach with fear. They lead with fear. Once you get a person afraid, you can get them to do whatever you want, because scared people naturally, biologically gravitate towards other people to protect them. You scare the crap out of them, and then you tell them, I can save you. And they're going to go, because that's what we do. It's what we're programmed to do. It's how we've survived. You know?
And I think it plays along with what I say, like the faux masculinity of Christianity. Like men are, we knock our woman over the head and drag them by the hair into the bedroom, and all that John Wayne stuff, and even how many times do you hear pastors now, the hip skinny jean pastor who's like, I want you to meet my red hot smoking hot wife over here, and boy, is she good, and they're making these sexual innuendos, thinking themselves hip. And again, it's like, there's a lot of small dick energy going there.
I know. It's like they stopped recruiting in prisons and started recruiting at Planet Fitness. It's ridiculous. Like the gym bros have become the Theo bros. It's terrible. We just gave them something to preach about. It's terrible, really.
And Kristen Dumais, who is the author of Jesus and John Wayne, which is a great book. If you haven't read it, you should. And I interviewed her a couple of years ago, and she said, cruelty is now seen as a virtue in right-wing Christianity. Cruelty is a virtue. We don't see Jesus saying, lay down your life for your friends. And anybody can love their friends, but it takes somebody really amazing to love their enemies. And we go, oh, well, he didn't really mean that. I can be cruel to people. I can be cruel to animals, because it's all for a good cause of getting people to heaven. And
it's like that last video from the last time we did this that I showed you, with that pastor's wife doing the Mother's Day sermon about how hatred is a virtue.
Yeah.
Jesus wants us to hate. There are certain times when you have to hate, and it's just terrible. It's divisive, and they do divisiveness under the umbrella, under the guise of unity, and then we wonder why we're having mental health crises in this country.
Yeah, and by the way, I have a comment on TikTok that says, "Do you agree that most pedophiles are homosexual?" And I would say, absolutely not.
No, absolutely not.
People of different gender identities make up less than, very small percentage of Americans. Almost all pedophiles are white Christian heterosexual men. Almost all.
Absolutely.
That's well over 99%, if not statistically 100%. This idea of transgender people in a women's bathroom putting people in danger. No, by far the most dangerous place your children can go can be the men's restroom with white Christian heterosexual men in there. And I said 100% on that, but which may not be right, but most pedophiles are white heterosexual Christian men.
Yeah, I don't know. He must be using Results Hunter to check for those stats, because those stats, they don't know. That doesn't track. That isn't true.
That's classic.
I mean, and I'm not a big, so I have a problem with statistics in general, because I kind of feel like with a lot of things, you can kind of get the statistics to say what you want them to say based on what you do.
True.
But when it comes to certain things like that, when we're talking about, perpetrators of crime, there's not really much you can do with that, because you're going by actual records. When you're talking about who is out there, molesting children, it's not up for debate. It's an actual point of record. When it comes to things like, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend this toothpaste, that can be skewed. Different kinds of statistics can be skewed. But when you're talking about legal statistics and cases and crimes, it's all right there. You are much more likely to be killed, raped, molested, and, robbed, whatever, by the people that and are related to, than by, the stranger people.
Yeah. And so to deflect from that, you create enemies. And today it's for right wingers, it's Joe Biden, it's the one world government, it's transgender people, it's I laugh. I uproariously laugh when right wingers say, "Well, we're protecting women's sports." When Title IX came around in the 70s, it was put into place, but in the 90s, it's when it really started impacting sports. I didn't see Christians running to the aid of women's sports. I heard Christians saying, well, girls don't want to play sports as much as boys do. Why would we give equal money to girls' sports?
It'll interfere with them becoming, wives and mothers.
Absolutely.
They're supposed to be cooking dinner and being pregnant. They shouldn't be playing sports.
Yeah, playing sports makes a woman self-confident and powerful. And boy, you may not want that if you're a right winger. You need her to be your submissive, right? All right, I know you got to go. You've got an appointment.
I do. Life is busy with teenage foster children.
All right. Well, thank you for doing that wonderful thing. An actual person who does foster children and take care of children, as opposed to our anti-abortion friends who so rarely do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I only do it so that I can checkmate them in conversations, though.
No, I know you do it out of a really good heart that cares for people. All right, Jill, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Bye.
All right, guys, I have a few more minutes if anybody wants to ask questions, or I have some right-wingers that want to make some more fun comments for us. That would be cool. I more and more am just struck with this faux masculine idea put on Christian men of what manliness is. And you see it all the time, these overgrown little boys making homophobic and misogynistic comments of like, look at him crying, like that's a negative, because they've never been taught to be actual men who are able to deal with emotional struggles and spiritual quandaries, and just indoctrinated into this you man, she woman, be man. And I think most Christian men deep down inside are thinking, I don't really match that ideal, but I guess I'm going to have to fake it. And I think it's a big part of why men live shorter lives and are the ones that do most of the raping and murdering and some of these heinous things, because we are really taught not to be men. We're taught to be this fantasy of what a man should be. And it's soul crushing. And I just see so many, and I'm one of them, overgrown little boys running around hurting so deeply, and the church telling them, just give it to Jesus, just give it to Jesus, just go to the cross and it'll all be good. And the message that we all receive is, okay, I better fake it, because if I don't, it's going to look bad. So I'll go to the men's breakfast and we'll talk about pornography and how evil porn, like porn is this acceptable sin that we love to do accountability groups around. But the deep reason of why a man is looking at porn, what is the need being expressed there, we're not allowed to look at, because that's not manly enough in this right-wing Christian church of guns and God and girls. I just want to tell you, men, there's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with feeling emotional. What your dad told you, don't cry like a girl, don't run like a girl, don't throw like a girl, was wrong. Your dad was wrong. And it's so much of my message for the world right now of, we have created these gender roles and now using them to demonize human beings who are trans or LGBTQ plus or two spirits or any of these. And it's just horrifically wrong. I don't know if Christianity has always been an anti-human belief system, but ever since that original sin, depraved flesh idea came in, that nothing good can come out of human beings except saying a sinner's prayer and joining a religious sect, is such a crushing anti-human belief system that I just think I mean, it's statistically, it's going away. It's going to disappear in a generation, and that's probably a good thing. Punks, what does that say? Punks in me? It says, love you and your insights, positivity and empowerment, creating safe space. You are incredible. Thank you, Punks in me. I don't know if my Christian friends don't agree that I create a safe space. They're always reporting me to TikTok. He said mean things about us. Jamie says there was MAGA march through Hollywood's farmer market, and they looked like something out of nuclear wastelands of Nevada. Douglas says whoever that was that made the comment about Bill Clinton and the homophobic misogynistic slur, Douglas says you'll never change their minds. They drank too deeply from the Kool-Aid. Yeah. Smirtuzzi says saw someone post about how women were forced to follow prescribed rules for so long, and now there are these prescribed roles and behavior for masculine men that seems equally repressive. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying men have it bad, women have it easy, because clearly women have been treated horrifically by the Christian church and continue to be so, and the church uses really bad interpretation of the Bible to justify it. But as I'm speaking out of my experience for other Christian men, I see how Christianity destroys men with fake masculinity and masculine ideals and any sense of femininity that a man may have inside has to be crushed and squashed. Sometimes it's called demonic. Sometimes it's saying you're possessed by the devil. You need to throw that out. And the interesting thing about that statement is that's exactly what was said about Jesus. The religious guys who believed a lot like what right-wing Christianity today said, are we correct to say that you're possessed by a demon? And you just you think Jesus had to be like, what? What? You want me to tell you that I'm possessed by a demon? And he said, swallow gnat. He starts saying things about straining gnats to swallow camels. Pock in the house says, would you consider yourself feminine? I would say that I have a lot of femininity in me that I love and is powerful, and I've had to stuff away for much of my life. And I have masculinity in me, and both of them are equally powerful. And Genesis, right at the start, it says, God says to whoever he's talking to, the council of gods around him, let us make man in our image. And it says, God made man in his image, male and female. He made them. The Bible is clear that God is both masculine and feminine. In Proverbs, we have God enunciated as wisdom, and wisdom is female. We have the Holy Spirit being called pneuma. Pneuma is a female noun. So we have even the writings attributed to Paul, that famous misogynist, although I don't think he was. I think he may have been, but that's a misinterpretation of the passage. But even Paul said, there is now neither slave nor free, Jew nor Greek, male nor female. God self-identified as I am that I am, which is a better translation is I will be what I will be. And so I think in the heavenly world, there is no male or female. And I think everybody should be able, I know many women that have wonderful masculine attributes that are powerful and amazing. And we call them the B word, or we call them bossy or something else, when in fact they just have incredible power. And when we get in touch with both our masculine and feminine side and allow both of them to be present in us, we can be a really amazing person. When we start to become told we have to be, this or that and fit this gender role or that gender role, or be this perfect cisgender heterosexual or that one, that's when a whole lot of repression starts to happen and people become the otherizing, marginalizing, hate-filled people that Christianity far too often makes people out to be. But yeah, I started getting my nails done, and it's pretty fun. I enjoy doing that with friends, and it just wearing earrings and stuff, and it drives Christians crazy because they're indoctrinated into these gender roles that stifle humanity. Melissa says, I would love to hear a session on Paul. I can do that sometimes. Yeah, I have a particular way that I read the writings that we attribute to Paul, which Paul did not write all of them, by the way, no matter how much we're told that he did. That has to be compared to Jesus and how Jesus lived. You can't read Paul and say, well, Jesus never said this and Jesus never demonstrated this in his life, but it's still a truth. No, you have to say that has to match who Jesus was and what Jesus said. So, all right, I'm going to let you guys go. Love you. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Oh, I do want to say I have a Deconstruction You unconventional conversation coming up. It's this Sunday, as a matter of fact, called, this is the wrong graphic. Oops, sorry, I just deleted it. Deconstruction You. Go to my website, pastor-paul.com. You can see it on the screen there, pastor-paul.com, and find out how you can join our Deconstruction You discussion group with unconventional conversations about who is God and who am I, and how do we read the Bible in a deconstructed mindset. And that's coming up this Sunday at 5 o'clock Pacific. To join, you have to be a subscriber to my website at the $15.99 a month level. So go to pastor-paul.com. And for joining, you get access to the audiobook version of my novel, Joseph Comes to Town When the Religious Right Becomes Religiously Wrong, and also access to my community chat board. So I hope you'll join at pastor-paul.com. And also, if you love the free content I bring and all the things that I do, I would love for you to help support it through your subscription and giving. And again, go to pastor-paul.com. You can point your camera right at the screen on the QR code and it'll open to the website. And for as little as $5.99 a month, you can help make a big difference for me to be able to provide the 20 some hours of free content I provide each week and get some other cool benefits for being a part of the Pastor Paul community. So would you go check it out for me? pastor-paul.com, become a subscriber, and let's hang out Sunday for our Deconstruction You unconventional conversations. Who is God and who am I? All right, look forward to that and hanging out with you. TikTok folks, glad you were with us today. We'll see you soon. And for those of you on Facebook and YouTube, love you. And we'll talk